Welcome to this training video on the Service Point Manager, part of one of the essential modules in SmartWorks. Please note that this training material is subject to non-disclosure and the material is copyrighted by Kearney SmartWorks. The topics covered are as follows. First of all, we'll give an overview of the Service Point Manager, what the Service Point Manager actually does. We'll then look at Service Point contract entities and the related entities as well. Then we'll look at Service Point Manager menus and the operational use cases, manage service points, manage meters, followed by configuration use cases. Part 1. The Service Point Manager Overview. Meter Data Manager. The industry often refers to the term Meter Data Manager, or MDM, which encompasses a broad set of functionality. In SmartWorks, the MDM functionality has been conveniently split into three separate yet related modules. The one we're examining today is the Service Point Manager. Other aspects would be the Reading Manager and the AMI Gateway. In order to understand the functions of the Service Point Manager, we need to look at the Service Point contract entities. The Service Point Manager allows for the configuration of metered and non-metered service points, which are in turn part of services provided by the utility to the consumer. A service point consists of a service location with one or more dispensing points from which a service is dispensed. Service locations can be associated with multiple consumer accounts. Meters are taken into store locations via the Service Point Manager. Subsequently, meters are installed and removed from dispensing points. So we've now examined the component parts of a consumer contract. We now need to look at the concept of divisions. Divisions allow segregation of consumer contracts and the associated financial and reading data. Users are assigned access to one or more divisions. So for example, you could assign a division to a particular engineering department or to a particular private utility. A consumer contract is an agreement to deliver a service at a service point, and it's associated with the corresponding service account and consumer account. In the example above, shown in the diagram, there's 5 contracts, 2 of which are at the same service location for the same resource, that's the ones on the left, the electricity ones, and 2 at another service location for different resources, gas and water on the right. Looking closer now at Service Point configuration. The Service Point Manager provides an interface to configure service locations, dispensing points, and take on, install and remove of meters. A meter is installed at a dispensing point. A service location can have one or more dispensing points, in effect allowing more than one meter at a service location. A service location is a physical place where the service, provided by the supplier, the utility, is delivered or removed in the case of refuse and sewage. A service location can have one or more dispensing points for metered services. An alert of alert type dispensing point added to service location is raised when a dispensing point is associated to a service location, and similarly, an alert of alert type dispensing point removed from service location is raised when a dispensing point is disassociated from a service location. A service location can be associated with multiple service accounts, potentially linked to different customer accounts. For example, the electricity service for a residence may be billed to a different customer than that for the water service. A service location can be associated with non-metered services such as refuse. Locations are categorized into configurable location types, such as informal residential, formal residential, commercial, and industrial. You can add your own ones by adding these into the location type table. A service location has a physical address, which consists of a free text line as well as the following geolocation entities: a region, which can have many suburbs, a suburb, which can have many streets, a street, which can be associated with both many suburbs and many buildings, as well as a street number, a building and building number, and as I've said, an optional free text location address. Note that there's a separate address, the billing address, which is associated with the consumer account. The service location reference number is a unique geolocation identifier, typically the plot or earth number. A dispensing point is a terminating point on a distribution network to which meter readings and/or events can be attributed. It's typically associated with the change of ownership or responsibility for the resource. For example, the electricity supply in a house after the dispensing point is the responsibility of the house owner and no longer the utility. The SIM specification refers to a dispensing point as a usage point. A dispensing point is associated with a physical or logical geolocation, GPS coordinates. A dispensing point can only ever be associated with one service account at any given time. Similarly, a dispensing point is associated with only one service location, although a service location can be associated with multiple dispensing points. At most, one meter can be installed at a dispensing point. An alert of alert type dispensing point added to service location is raised when a dispensing point is associated to a service location, and similarly, an alert type dispensing point removed from service location is raised when a dispensing point is disassociated from a service location. The dispensing point type is used to categorize dispensing points into groups which share identical attributes and options. A dispensing point type is associated with a single resource. Dispensing point types can be associated with reading groups, which in turn are associated with meter channels and SIM reading types. A derived option property on the dispensing point type indicates if all of the channels configured on this type will be for derived readings. For example, a sewage dispensing point type will require sewage readings, but these are typically derived as a percentage of water readings. Various reading VEE options are configured per dispensing point type to validate readings. These are configured via the database. A meter is a device that measures and records the quantity, degree, or rate of consumption or production of a resource commodity. The meter is one of the consumer contract entities and is identified by a unique reference number, the meter serial number. Only single resource meters are supported in SmartWorks. A meter is installed at most one dispensing point at any given time. A meter can be removed from a dispensing point and placed into a configurable store location to facilitate meter life cycle tracking. In accordance with SIM principles, meter measurements are recorded as readings, meter alarms and events received as meter events, meter commands sent via meter control requests, and meters are queried using a meter query request. Note that in respect of SDS meters, engineering tokens would constitute meter control requests. The meter status indicates the operational state of the meter. A meter is associated with the common attributes of a meter type. In accordance with SIM, meter types are used to classify meters produced by manufacturers and model according to its capabilities and attributes, specifically their ability to accept commands, what we call meter controls, to measure, which we call meter reading types, via the corresponding dispensing point type, and then send alarms and events, which we would call end-device events, and respond to queries, which we call meter queries. Remote meter configuration is not currently supported in SmartWorks. Meter types and their functions and attributes are configurable via database configuration as shown below. The capabilities and attributes of meters leads us on to Part 3, Service Point Related Entities. Meter readings. Meter readings can be on demand, that's in response to meter queries, or they can be scheduled. The AMI gateway always stores readings which are subsequently validated via their corresponding association with the properties inside the dispensing point type. Consequently, SmartWorks is able to match expected reading types and their frequency with the actual reading types received from the meter, and then rate them or alert on them accordingly. Reading types can be configured via the dispensing point type web configuration screen. Meter controls. Meters must be issued commands or controls as part of an ongoing operational activities. These could be, for example, power limit tokens for STS meters, or a disconnect command for smart meters. The Service Point Manager uses the meter's meter type to determine what control functions are supported and, if applicable, which head-end system can be used to send those controls to the meter. The configuration of control types is based on the SIM end device control types attributes, and they are currently configured via database settings as shown on the right. The meter control status is the status of a meter control command issued by the service point manager for a given meter, so you can see whether it's been successful, and if not, where it is in the actual communication process. Meter queries. Meters can be issued queries in order to read operational and measurement parameters. An example of a common meter query is an ad hoc or on-demand reading request. The service point manager uses the meter's meter type to determine what meter query functions are supported, and, if applicable, which head-end system can be used to issue the query to the meter. Configuration is based on the SIM meter query concept and is currently configured via database settings. Finally, meter alarms and events. Meters can issue alarms and events. Alarms are simply more urgent events. An example of a meter alarm is a tamper detection, for example. The service point manager uses configuration to map the end device events received from meters to the standard SmartWorks alert types configured via the Alert Manager. Mapping of end device event types to alert types is configured via the database. We've now examined the various database entities related to the service point manager and related entities. Now we can move on to part 4, the menus that relate to the service point manager. The service point operational menus are Manage Service Points, that's dispensing points, service locations, and installing and removing meters, and then Managing Meters, that's taking on meters. The configuration related menus are Alert Types. It's a shared configuration indicating which service point menu related alerts are raised, and dispensing point type attributes. Geolocations, that's regions, suburbs, streets and buildings, and store locations. Looking at the first of these, Manage Service Points menu, part 4.1. The Manage Service Points menu allows service locations and dispensing points to be added or edited, as well as allowing meters to be installed or removed. Users may only manage service points for their authorized divisions. Searching and adding service points. Use the search button to find a particular service point using the wide range of search criteria. Use the Add button to create a new service point. Note that you can use the Search By to change the filter criteria for searching. Adding a service point. The service location attributes are as shown. Select the appropriate division if that's applicable. Only those geolocations accessible to the user will be selectable. Use the Add button to create one or more dispensing points at this service location. Then use the Save button to store the changes. Adding a dispensing point. The attributes of a dispensing point are shown. The division is automatically set to that of the service location because it couldn't be any different. The dispensing points can be associated to a network using the internode selection. As I've mentioned previously, many dispensing points, irrespective of resource, can be associated with a particular service location. Use the Add button to create a new dispensing point. Use the Action button to perform context-specific actions for a given dispensing point. If there's no meter currently associated with the dispensing point, the user can select the Install a Meter action on the right-hand side. There are other actions there as well. Installing a meter will require you to go and find the particular meter. Use the search facility to find a meter in a store location you have access to. Only meters and store locations visible to the user's division can be selected. When you install a meter, various attributes can be set. Set the attributes as shown. The dispensing point's channel information is shown for reference purposes in respect of the expected reading types on the right-hand side. Attachments, that's images, can be associated with the meter installation. If you choose to add an attachment, select the Choose File button to load the attachment for the given meter. GPS information will be retrieved from the image if it's applicable. Moving back to the other dispensing point actions, we've looked at installing a meter. Now, if there is a meter currently associated with the dispensing point, the user can view the installed meter properties amongst other actions using the drop-down list. The same Actions menu allows you to remove a meter from a dispensing point. To remove the meter, set the new store location from the list of available stores. That's so you can keep track of the position and location of the meter. And set the removal date and time with optional details about who removed it and why. Section 4.2 of the Services Point Manager menus deals with managing meters. This is how we take on meters to begin with. The Manage Meters menu allows meters to be taken on into a store location, as well as to set the various attributes associated with those meters. Users may only manage meters for authorized divisions. STS prepayment meters must be associated with the corresponding vending gateway. You can search for meters using the Search button and the various filter criteria provided. Use the Add button to take on one or more meters. To add meters, enter the meter's serial number or alternatively load them from a file. Set the corresponding division and store location. Use the Clear Loaded Meters button to start over if you get it wrong. Use the Set Properties for All Meters button to set the attributes for all meters shown in the list, and then select the Save button to store all the changes. Note that the meters are not actually stored in the database until you select Save. If using the Meter Properties window, it will pop up as shown. Where readings are expected at regular intervals, set the acceptable meter reading alert delay. This will create an alert if a reading has not been received based on this property. Be sure to set the vending gateway for prepayment STS meters, then click on the OK button. On selecting the Save button, SmartWorks will attempt to store all the new meter records. If some meters cannot be stored, the save result will indicate the reason for the failure for that meter. Other meters with no failures will be stored in the database. Moving on now to the configuration-related menus for Service Point Manager. The first of these is Alert Type Configuration. Use the Alert Type menu to configure the various alert types and their properties. Use the Alert Group search facility to view and enable and edit the properties of alert types relating to the Service Point Manager. The alert type attributes are as shown below. Importantly, select the contact group to indicate the set of contacts who will receive an alert of the given alert type. Alert types can be enabled, sent via SMS, emailed, or even delayed to normal contactable periods, as shown using the settings on the screen. Now let's look at the Dispensing Point Type Configuration menu. Dispensing points are classified into types for convenience. Dispensing point types can be associated with readings via the reading groups and channels. See the Readings Manager for more details. The Dispensing Point Type menu will display the screen as shown. Use the Add button to add new dispensing point types, and then set the map layer attributes, edit its properties if you need to, including the corresponding channels. If you have selected to add a dispensing point type, the attributes will be as shown. Many of the attributes refer to dispensing point types for which readings are expected, and refer to the context-sensitive help for more details on these. Use the Save button to store the changes. Using the Manage Channels button of the dispensing point type screen will show the channel details. Channels must be associated with a reading group, which is a logical collection of reading types with similar properties. If applicable, specify the action required if any of the reading types within the group are not received from a corresponding meter. Indicate if the corresponding readings should be rated, and whether consumption threshold alerts should be applied to the readings. The channel must be associated with a given reading type. Click the Save button when done. The next section deals with geolocation configuration menus. Remember, there's many different types of geolocations. Service locations can be associated with a hierarchical and flexible geolocation structure as shown. A region may have one or more suburbs which can have many corresponding streets. Streets can be associated with many suburbs. Buildings can be associated with a street. Geolocations, other than buildings, are not associated with divisions. Use the Manage Regions menu to display the configured regions. Use the Add button to create new regions or the Edit button to modify the attributes of an existing one. You can also set the polygon shape and colors for the layer in Google Maps. To add a region, set the attributes and simply click Save. Use the Manage Suburbs menu to display the configured suburbs. Use the Add button to create a new suburb or the Edit button to modify the attributes. You can set the Google Map layer properties, including color and polygon size. When adding a suburb, set its attributes as shown. Note that a suburb must be associated with a parent region which must be selected, and then click Save. Use the Manage Streets menu to display the configured streets. Use the Add button to create new streets or the Edit button to modify the attributes. Once again, you can set the Google Map layer properties, including color and polygon shape. When adding a street, set the street attributes as shown. Note that a street must be associated with one or more suburbs. Click Save when done. When associating streets with suburb, select the suburbs to associate with the street. Remember that a street can be associated with more than one suburb. Use the Manage Buildings menu to search for and display the configured buildings. Remember that buildings are subject to divisions for security reasons. Use the Add button to create new buildings or the Edit button to modify the attributes. You can also set the geospatial properties for Google Maps. Add a building using the Add Building button. Set the building attributes, including the building type, as shown. Use the Find button to associate the building with a street. Remember that buildings are subject to division selection, and then use the Save button when done. Associate a building with a street. Search for and select the street to associate with the building. Now let's look at the Store Location configuration menu option. Use the Manage Store Locations menu to search for and display the configured store locations. Don't forget you can configure a store location for a virtual location such as a contractor. Use the Add button to create new store locations and select the store location reference number in the left-hand column to view or edit a store location's attributes. Use the Add Store Location button to set its new attributes. Note that a store location must be associated with the division for security purposes. Click Save when done. So now finally time for a recap on the Service Point Manager. Recall that the Service Point Manager is one of the modules that would traditionally be regarded as part of a Metadata Manager, or MDM, the others being the Reading Manager and the AMI Gateway. Recall that the Service Point Manager configures the service point attributes related to the consumer contract. So the Service Point Manager allows for the configuration of metered and non-metered service points, which are in turn part of services provided by the utility to the consumer. A service point consists of a service location with one or more dispensing points from which a service is dispensed. Service locations can be associated with multiple consumer accounts. Meters are taken into store locations via the Service Point Manager. Subsequently, meters are installed and removed from those dispensing points. That completes this video on the Service Point Manager. The next essential module is the Services Manager. Thanks for watching.